sound like I'm shouting. Also onto our Facebook page. If you have any questions, just put them to either one of these as comments, and then what I'll do is I will answer them later, because I think I mentioned last night that I can't do two things at once. I am a guy after all, and I can't multitask. So without further ado, what I am going to do is flick over to the presentation and start talking once again about the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve and creating the dark sky capital of Western Australia. Now, yes, we know that Gingin is close to Perth. It's only an hour's drive north and of the major capital city of Western Australia. And yes, our skies are wonderfully dark. They're not the darkest in WA, but because we're close to a capital city, that makes us very, very accessible. It also will hopefully attract a lot of international collaborations and international visitors coming up to the region, which will be absolutely fantastic. So kicking off from here, just see if this one moves across. Eventually it will. If not, then I will do it manually. There we are. So, oh, excuse me. So what is a dark sky reserve? Now, here at the Gravity Discovery Centre, we're hoping to create an international dark sky reserve. And what is that exactly? Well, I'm glad you asked. It is an area possessing exceptional dark skies, starry skies, that is specifically protected for its scientific, educational, cultural heritage and nocturnal environment. And that we certainly tick all those boxes. So for example, the scientific part. Here on site at the Gravity Precinct, we have a lot of astronomical research collaborations, astronomical and astrophysical. So the University of Western Australia and Ausgrav are here on site with the largest telescope in Western Australia. We also have telescopes from the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA, also from Pulsar, the Polish Space Agency, also from Airbus Ariane Group, and also the United States Air Force Academy. So we have all these scientific endeavours and assets here on site within the Shire of Gingin that are actually doing real science. And we're hoping to attract more because it would be good to actually make this a focus, no pun intended, of astronomical research, because the infrastructure's here, beautiful dark skies, and it is an hour's drive north of a major capital city where you can fly in, fly out researchers from all around the world. So it makes a lot of sense. The other thing is education. So STEM, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics, is what we teach here. Astronomy, astrophysics, local cultural astronomy. So the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory is the perfect place to teach and inspire future scientists in the fields of optical and radio astronomy, astrophysics, gravitational wave astronomy and physics. Now we do have plans to create a new observatory here on site, and we are currently seeking funding streams to actually make that a reality. So we would like to make our multi-messenger observatory where we not only have optical telescopes where people and the general public can look through, but we also have, okay, that doesn't have to do anything to me, I'll apologise for that. But we also will have research grade telescopes where we can demonstrate how science is done in optical telescopes, but we'll also have radio telescopes on site. And it'll also be a teaching observatory as well, so secondary and tertiary students can come and use the facilities here. Cultural heritage, so protecting the local sky stories and culture. So the Gravity Discovery Centre and Observatory is working together with local Yuet and Whadjuk elders to preserve and continue the traditional sky stories that are intertwined amongst the dark areas of the Milky Way galaxy and also the stars as well. They form an integral part of record keeping, and once the night sky is covered over with light pollution, it is very, very, very difficult to get rid of. So it's very important that we protect that, just for for the cultural aspect too. We also want to protect the nocturnal environment, so protecting our precious ecosystem. So the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve seeks to protect the local wildlife, bird, insect, amphibian and coastal marine life that form an integral part of this unique ecosystem in which we live, or you residents live in here. Because it is unique to this area. We do have a lot of unique creatures and a lot of unique plants as well, which do rely on night and day cycles. And keeping it dark is the best way to do it. But also science tourism. So science tourism is this growing growing aspect of tourism, which will hopefully, the creation of the Dark Sky Reserve will seek to attract local, national and international visitors. And of course, the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory is WA's premier public observatory. We've got dark skies, great telescopes, and you also have access to on-site research observatories and research facilities too. You can interact and talk to researchers, but also be guided by qualified astronomers and astrophysicists. So we know what we're talking about, and that's always helpful, because that's just you get a better experience. In fact, science tourism it's more than just an experience, it's a learning experience. And if you come away with even just a small amount of knowledge, a little bit more about the universe in which we live, or even just our local ecosystem, well, you've just learned something new and you've just improved yourself. So what is light pollution? Light pollution is the presence of unwanted, inappropriate or excessive artificial light at night, or what we call ALAN. No offense to any ALANs in the audience. Now, light pollution is a problem. It's not just a local problem, it's a global problem. I was just talking to two visiting researchers from Slovakia just today, and they were telling me about how on a good night for them, they can sometimes see this thing called the zodiacal light. Now, the zodiacal light is this ghostly glow out towards the west or east, depending on what time of the day it is. So as the sun has set and it starts getting dark and you start to see the stars out towards the west where the sun has set, you can see this faint glow from the horizon extending upwards. And what that is just the light from the sun reflecting off the dust component in the solar system. And we see it here all the time at the Gravity Discovery Centre precinct. It's one of those given things. It's like, oh, there's the zodiacal light. But for them, it's actually a rare treat. And Europe is quite densely populated. In fact, where they are, it's quite sparse, but that's what helps them. But we are very, very fortunate where we are. Yes, yet you do have a lot of light pollution from Perth, but nowhere near as much as what you would have if you were living in Europe. So we are very, very lucky when it comes to that aspect. Now, this is the light pollution. This is the main source of light pollution that we get up here. Is if you look down towards the south, you will see this dome of light. And of course, that is the light from Perth and all the northern suburbs. That is the sky glow coming from those lights on the ground. They're actually behind the horizon because, yes, the Earth is curved. And we cannot see the lights directly, but we can see their effects. Now, one way to look at that dome of light is millions of dollars of electricity has been wasted every single year lighting up the night sky where it is not needed and certainly not wanted. Another way to look at that is millions of tons of fossil fuels are being consumed every single year, contributing to global warming and climate change. Now, this is an actual environmental disaster going on right above the heads of people in Perth, myself included, because that's where I live. And most of the people are oblivious to it because, well, they spend most of their nighttime hours indoors. But people are now starting to hear about light pollution and beginning to understand. And it's, work like what we do here by promoting and not promoting, but telling people and educating people about light pollution and its harmful effects that are getting people really switched on. Again, no pun intended. Bad choice of words if you ask me. But just the same, people are now starting to become a bit more mindful of this light pollution business, and they're thinking, well, if it's a real problem, maybe we should do something about it. And that's good. It's good if we could have a groundswell. But it all starts off from things like street lights or car yard lights or school security lights or sports recreational oval lights or architectural lights or wherever. So it's essentially poorly designed, overused artificial light at night that causes this. It affects human health, wildlife behaviour, and severely impacts the science of optical astronomy. And from large cities like Perth and its suburban surrounds, the sky glow from light pollution is visible for tens to even hundreds of kilometres away. I mean, we're up here about 70 kilometres, 75 kilometres away from Perth CBD, and we can see it quite plainly. I was even seeing it as far north as, oh God, what's that place called now? Not Wildcatcham, Corder. You could just see this faint little glow coming from way, way down south. So, and that's quite a distance away. Now, from Gingin and the GDC precinct, the sky glow is mostly restricted, but not limited to a dome on the southern horizon. Now, we're very fortunate here at the Gravity Centre because we've got a very large tower that's 45 metres high, and it gives us a fantastic view of the surrounding areas. Now, I went up there last night after my last night's broadcast just to have a bit of a look around and see if anything has improved or gotten worse and whatever. We do regular checks like that just to keep an eye on what's going on. And, you know, I must confess that I was pleasantly surprised. There are still a few little pockets of light that are a little bit too bright for their own good. So if that is you, expect a knock at your door, because I'm going to be coming by and saying, hello, could we, you know, do something about your lights, because they actually impact upon what we do. Now, one of the good stories that I like to share with you is we went a couple of years ago up to the Burnanaring mineral sand mine just up the road, just up Brand Highway. And we approached the on-site management and told them about their light pollution and the problems they're causing us and the surrounding areas. And they had a bit of a chuckle. And they said, this is the first time anyone's ever complained about the lights. Everyone normally complains about the trucks, the noise, or the dust. This is a real first for us. And they basically then said, how can we help? And they did, because when I went up there last night, the lights from the mine site, while still you can still see them, they are nowhere as near as bright as what they were when they first started off their operations. And it's good to see that, you know, this operation has taken it on board to actually do something about it and to work in with the community. So hats off to them. Also, we've been dealing with an abattoir to the north of us, about 3.5 k's, and they've started up operations. Bigfoot Meats, I think it is, so big shout out to them. They have lights that are very, very bright, but they only use them when they are taking an order in or dispatching or whatever. But there are still a couple of lights that are a bit too bright for their own good, so we might just pop by and see if we can work together to actually help you use your light a little bit more efficiently rather than sort of pointing it down towards us. But yeah, things like this is approaching as good neighbours seems to work quite well. So yes, anyway, moving on. What causes light pollution? Well, generally what causes that big dome of light is this thing here, the humble street light, public enemy 1, 2 and 3 in my opinion. And of course what we see with the humble street light, it's got that familiar cobra head design where we have this glass or plastic lens down the bottom which seeks to scatter the light over a more even area and disperse the light over quite a large area actually. But what they're actually designed to do is actually create a useful cone of light. So that's the area to be lit. But they get a little bit overzealous because this lens here tends to scatter light down to this poor fellow down here standing in the glare zone. Now the glare zone actually can be quite bright. These things are very bright, by the way. You may have noticed as you're driving home along the freeway. But of course the direct glare from a light is very bright, and glare is a type of light pollution. We also have light trespass. Now it may not be the case in anywhere in Gingin or within the Gingin Shire where your house is, or your bedroom rather at the front of the house is, unfortunately there's a street light right out the front and it shines into your bedroom all night, well, that's coming into your house. You don't really want that light there, do you? So it is technically trespassing onto your property, and you are well within your rights to actually get that light shielded, because it could affect your health. It could affect a whole bunch of things. So if it does affect you, say something about it. See if you can get it shielded. See if you can get the light shining somewhere else and not into your bedroom window, affecting your sleep. But of course, the worst and the most insidious form of light pollution is, of course, sky glow. And this is coming from the light that goes through the lens. It also gets scattered in an upward direction. So there we see that arrow pointing up here. All the light, the area to be lit, is so intensely bright, it reflects, and it causes that glow. Hence that previous picture where we've got that very, very intense glow of light. Now, thankfully, the design of these Cobra head luminaires are actually being phased out in favor of these things here, the LED lights. And these are more of a flat design, but the LED lights, whilst their design is flat and a lot better than what we see here, there's a number of factors that need to be taken into consideration, especially the installation. Installation is a big one, because sometimes the installers don't really install it properly, and it could be a little bit skew-whiff in one direction, and it may be tilted in such an angle that it might be shining light down the road onto oncoming traffic, or the other way. Or it might be tilted up too high, which is effectively just spraying light willy-nilly where it's not really needed, directly on the ground. But LED lights pose their own set of problems, new set of problems that we find now, and I'll outline them in just a moment. But from the International Dark Sky Association, the IDA, which is where we're seeking our Dark Sky Reserve approval from, they are internationally recognised as the definitive authority on light pollution and combating light pollution. So the IDA puts out a lot of information about the best types of lighting you can have, and of course this little demonstration here shows you the very bad stuff. So those spheres which have got no shielding whatsoever just throw light in all sorts of directions. It's a very wasteful, inefficient way to light up an area. This one here is pretty bad. It's equal to this thing, where it scatters light upwards as well as downwards. This one here is not too bad because it cuts it off at the horizon, but still, you're still getting a lot of light thrown out on the sides. But this one here is the best. This is a full cut-off shielded light where it directs all the light to the ground where it is needed. You don't need lights up in the night sky. You need them on the ground. Well, even then, you may not need them, because the last time I checked, cars have headlights. So this is probably the best thing to aim for, is to direct all the light down to the ground, to use your light the most efficient way to do it. So direct all your light down to the ground. It's the basic message. Now this picture here is just, it upsets me in so many different ways, because first and foremost, you have all these bright lights that are spaced quite close apart, and there's no one there. There's no one driving on this 4-lane highway. It is just insane. So all these lights are running at high power for the whole night, and no one's using that road. You may get the occasional person just, getting out of a club or wherever, coming home late from work like myself. But honestly, that's what headlights are for on vehicles. In fact, this is actually detrimental to safety for a number of reasons. One, some people may forget to put their headlights on. So because vehicles would tend to blend in, you may not be able to see them. Yes, it is bright, but if they had their headlights on, it's like driving with your headlights on the highway, country highways. During the day, you put your headlights on. It's a safety feature. So it's the same with this thing, even though it's well lit. Sometimes, because you're tired or fatigued, you may not see that vehicle, and there could be problems. Speaking of fatigue, this glare coming from these lights, there has been a number of studies around the world proving that direct glare into the eyes of a driver at night does increase driver fatigue. And that's a real problem, especially if you're driving home from work late one night, like I tend to do quite a lot. You start feeling pretty tired, and if you feel too tired and you start to micro nap, that's when it becomes very, very dangerous. But having these lights blasting into your eyes as you're driving down the freeway at 100 kilometers an hour, I didn't say 110, 100 kilometers an hour, is pretty dangerous, because it does increase driver fatigue. And you know, the sensible thing, we live in the 21st century. We can actually dim these lights. And there's an app that can do it. So all these lights are controlled by a central processor, a central master light that is linked up to the internet to a signal, and you can actually dim all these lights down to half their illumination. You don't have to blast it 100% every night. That's ridiculous. Or in fact, the smart thing to do is to put them on sensors. If you really do want to have people driving along here and they drive by every few minutes or an hour, one every hour or something like that, have them running at, say, 20% their true brightness, but then as they approach, the first 2 or 3 light up to 80%, and then as they drive past, they dim back down to 20%. It can be done. We have technology to do that. So why they don't employ this technology is a little bit puzzling. But the technology is there. Now, is light pollution harmful? Short answer is, you bet. It is. Absolutely. It is harmful. It's harmful in so many ways. But let's look at it. Let's see why it is harmful. So let's look at the light itself. Let's look at the color of the lights. Now, the colors of the light plays a very, very important role in how sick you can get. Well, not how sick, that's a bit dramatic, but how it can actually affect your health. Now, if we look at the lower end of the scale down here, we have the 2700K lights. This is what's called color-corrected temperature. So 2700K lights is that very warm type of light, sort of almost a reddish-orange color. 3000K lights is a little bit brighter and a little bit more sort of crisper. That is still or warmer white light. Then we have 3,500, 4,000K lights, which is your very sort of cool white light. Same with the 5,700 and the 6,000K lights and the 7,000K. These are exceptionally white or almost blue, and that's the reason why, is because there's extra blue light in all these ones. So this orange line here is the line that should not be crossed, because anything more than this and you start having a lot more blue light embedded within that color spectrum or that color corrected temperature. For example, when we look at the spectra or the light that goes through a special machine called a spectroscope, we can see the different colors of light that make up that white light. So Isaac Newton did this a few hundred years ago with the prism. In fact, you can see it every time there's rain in the air and the sun shines through it. We see a rainbow. That's nature's spectrograph. And what happens is the white light goes through a prism or droplets of water and it scatters the light. And we can see the different colors. So when we look at this thing here for the 2700K lights, we see a lot of reds, a lot of oranges, yellows, and then it starts to peter off. And then we got this little tiny bump here for blue light. Okay, that's why it appears warm. It's because of these colors here peaking at this frequency there. Let's look at 3000K light. Not too bad. We start shifting into the yellow, but that peak blue light is increasing. And that's where the problem lies, because when we look at 4000K lights, there is a strong, strong response in the blue. There's a lot of blue light there, and that is where the problem lies. I'll explain that in just a minute, because when you're driving down the freeway, the Mitchell Freeway headed down towards Perth, all the freeway lights now are LED lights. They do use their light reasonably efficiently. They do have a cone of light, and there's minimal scattering up, apart from reflection off the road, but they are 4000K lights, and you'll notice this. In the older part of the freeway, those old highway lights with the glass bulb at the bottom, the Cobra head design, are scattering light willy-nilly, but it's a very orangey kind of light. It's 2300K. And if we look at the spectra of this one here, there's lots of blue light. We look at the spectra of this one here, very little blue light. So this one here, LED lights are great because they use the light more efficiently, but the bad is this blue light. This is terrible design because it scatters light everywhere, but on the spectrum, this is much, much better. If we could somehow mash these two together and use this spectra on that type of light, that'd be fantastic. Now, the problem lies in that blue light, and it's all to do with the circadian rhythm and the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. So the body's master clock is located in the SCN of the hypothalamus, which is in your brain. And it receives light and dark signals, or frequencies of light, via the retinohypothalamic tract. So essentially what this is saying is this. During the day, the surrounding sky, the sun shines at a color-corrected temperature of 7,500 K. So there's a tremendous amount of blue light in that light that we see. That signal goes through your eyes, through to your SCN, and it triggers something in the SCN, the nucleus raphe, which continues to feed you the awake hormone, serotonin. So it keeps you awake. That peak blue light keeps you awake, and that's what you're supposed to do during the day, stay awake. But then at nighttime, when the sun sets and that peak blue light starts to diminish, that sends another signal to your SCN, to your pineal gland, to start producing melatonin. Now, melatonin has been described as the sleep hormone. It is a neurohormone your pineal gland secretes while you sleep. And as the sun sets and the peak blue light goes away, the pineal gland starts producing melatonin. And it starts making you feel sleepy. So you do the sensible thing, and you go to bed, and you have a sleep. That's exactly what it's meant to do. Now, as you are sleeping, melatonin is coursing through your body. It is a strong antioxidant. It helps repair your body while you sleep. And it is just a fantastic thing to have. In fact, it is highly, highly, highly recommended for kids growing up. They need to have their 10 hours, 12 hours sleep, or however long they're supposed to. But they also need to have their melatonin because it helps develop their brains. It helps them in so many ways. In fact, even adults as well. But what we're starting to do now with those lights is we're starting to flood our nighttime environment with this peak blue light. So we're feeding anything outside with this information don't produce melatonin, and that's a big problem. Now, it's not just limited to street lights, it's also your indoor activities as well. So your lights to your kitchen or your lounge room, or even watching television, because your TV is produced by, or is actually powered by blue LED technology. That's a problem. Your computer monitors and your smartphones. Now, this is especially important for kids because this does affect them, but it also affects everyone as well. But some of the ways that this blue light can affect you is the disruption of your sleep schedule, might leave you distracted and impair your memory for the next day. That could be a problem. A poor night's sleep caused by smartphone light can make it harder to learn. I mean, kids these days, their mobile phones are molecularly bonded to their persons anyway, and trying to take them off their device before going to bed is virtual impossibility. But I strongly urge you to do that. Try and get your kids off their devices at least an hour before going to bed so they can start producing melatonin. They'll be so much better for it. Over long term, not getting enough sleep can lead to neurotoxin buildup that makes it even harder for you to get a good night's sleep. It starts this vicious cycle that you just keep feeling tired, you go to bed, you look at your phone, and you just cannot get to sleep. It is just a real problem. People whose melatonin levels are suppressed and whose body clocks are thrown off by light exposure are more prone to depression. But also researchers are investigating whether or not blue light could lead to cataracts. Also, by disrupting melatonin and sleep, smartphone light can also mess with the hormones that control hunger, potentially increase obesity risk. And along that pathway, heart disease and diabetes. So a big problem right there. And there's some evidence that blue light could damage our vision by harming the retina over time, although more research is needed on that one. But I mean, some of these new vehicles with their lensed LED lights, especially driving home from here, you don't know if they've got their high beams on or not. And then if you dare flash, melt your eyes from your sockets of your skull. They are that bright. So it's a real problem, these LED lights. But the worst one of them all is the connection between light exposure at night and the disturbed sleep that come with an increased risk of breast and prostate cancers. Now, there's a little bit more to it than that, and I'll just outline that now. This is the blue light causal chain, where you have a blue light, especially the peak blue light. Your melanopsin receptors in the lower half of the eye retina detect bioactive blue light. Of course, that blue light into your SCN disrupts your body clock, your circadian rhythm, Blue light suppresses melatonin release from the pineal gland, and it's been found through research that cancer tumours grow faster when melatonin is suppressed. And of course, you have an increased rate of breast and prostate cancers in people working at night or shift work or all that kind of stuff. But this is over a protracted period of time too. There was a study done in Spain where they did look at people working night shift and suppressed melatonin levels, and yes, the melatonin count was very, very, very low. Now, I was privy to go to a conference a couple of years ago in 2018, and one of the presenters was from the American Medical Association, and she was a neurosurgeon by trade, so a brain doctor, and her talk included this slide here. So that basically says the American Medical Association supports the proper conversion to the community-based light-emitting diode lighting, which reduces energy consumption and decreases the use of fossil fuels. That's one of the positive things about LED lights. The American Medical Association encourages the use of LED sources with lower melanoptic content that facilitates human activities after sunsets and improves public health and safety during nighttime hours. So yes, light up certain areas, but do it efficiently, but do it with lights that are not strong in blue response. Keep them warm. Drop that bioactive blue light out of the equation and it'll be so much better. All LED street lighting should be properly shielded to minimize glare, light trespass into homes, and other potential detrimental human and environmental effects. Consideration should be given to utilize the ability of LED lighting to be dimmed in order to reduce energy consumption and total light output, including for off-peak time periods. Before widespread replacement, communities should test LEDs with different color temperature sources for citizen acceptance. So, excuse me again. That makes a lot of sense. Basically, seeing if these lights work for you. Now, how can the Gingin community help? How can you support the Dark Sky Reserve Initiative? How can we keep this corner of the world dark, free from light pollution? Well, for a start, only use outdoor lights when necessary. Do you really, really need those lights at the end of your driveway that have got a round ball on them blazing away all night, wasting you precious dollars in electricity? Do you really need to do that? I don't think so. So reconsider. Maybe when you have friends coming over and you're expecting guests, yeah, turn them on, but make sure that their light is used properly and not those god-awful round things that sit on top of brick columns and just blaze away all night. Ask yourself, does my external shed need to be on all night? Some of you have got some big sheds. It is a rural area, and of course, yes, you've got some very, very large sheds, but do you really need to have a big 500-watt floodlight just blasting away into your yard all night? I don't think so. If you're worried about security, you know what? Put it on a sensor. In fact, sensors work so much better than just having lights shining on all night, because any would-be intruder suddenly gets startled by a big bright light, it'll scare them away, because they don't know if it's the sensor activating it or if it's a human turning it on, ready to come out and shoo them away with something sharp. So, not that I condone that, but can I utilize a sensor instead? And it's a good thing to do. Are my existing lights being used efficiently? So if you do have those round ball type lights at the end of your driveway, maybe reconsider an upgrade. Maybe reconsider something that's a little bit more friendly towards the night sky and not scattering light in all directions, especially up. So look at your shed light. Is it pointing down to the ground, or is it just sticking straight out, lighting up all the surrounding trees and shrubs and bushland everywhere? Support the shielding of existing street lights across the Shire of Gingin, because that's going to be one of the main aims for being a dark sky reserve, is to actually modify our street lights to become compliant with the International Dark Sky Association, or best practice, to keep the skies dark, to use the lights more efficiently, to direct the light to the ground and not out to the side where it's certainly not needed. Question the need for extra street lighting. Do we really need it? Well, I mean, speaking personally, I prefer driving along a dark road where there's no street lights. It's so much easier on the eyes, and you can see so much better. You can see approaching traffic from miles away, and that's one of the best things about it. Take pride in making the Shire of Gingin the dark sky capital of WA, and do that by keeping your outside lights off or low. It's not that hard. And communicate. Talk about dark skies of Gingin to visitors and to tourists. You know, you get some people coming through that you're not familiar with, and if they ask you where you're going or whereabouts can I find this, you say, hey, by the way, did you know you're residing in the middle of a dark sky reserve? But if you want more information, we do have some of our brochures that we've printed up at the CRC, also at the council offices, and there's also at the little cafe just near, oh God, what's that park? Crumbs, I haven't been there for a while. But they do, oh my God, they do a fantastic lemon meringue pie, and the coffee's awesome, so go there. That's just in town near the park. Okay, where am I going? Here we are. All right, so this is what I mean about a shed light, throwing light in all directions. This is very poorly installed. All the light goes up above the horizontal plane and up into the night sky, and it reduces what we can see, and it's just really not necessary. So I want to consider doing this instead. So employing the use of a shield and actually shielding the light down into the area where you're going to light up, and not have it go above the horizon line. And then we can start seeing the stars a bit more. Even better, put this darn thing on a sensor, so it only turns on when something trips the sensor. And that's it. You save a lot of money that way. So when I talked about modifying the street lights in the Shire of Gingin, I'm talking about getting rid of this thing here, this glass bulb at the bottom, and installing something called an aero screen. Now, an aero screen is a piece of perspex or some other high-impact plastic that covers up the bulb, but it instantly transfers this light pollution demon here into this efficient light that is fully enclosed, that directs the light down to where it is needed. It's just a simple fix. It really is. And we would like to do that to all the lights within the Shire of Gingin. In fact, we are looking at trialling some of these designs in Gingin town itself, and actually picking up a couple of lights and using it as a demonstration, a public demonstration, to show you how well these lights can work, this simple modification. In fact, a lot of the cases to make a place dark is just some very, very simple modifications, inexpensive modifications. Now, think globally, act locally used to be the motto of the IDA, and so too it should be with everyone. It's a very good motto. So you want to solve the problems of light pollution? Yep, we'll start acting locally. And that's exactly what we did here at the Gravity Precinct. Now, this picture I took from the top of the tower in November 2017, and the panorama shows us the light pollution from Yanchep and Perth and the northern suburbs and Bullsbrook and Mouchet. There's the Brand Highway down here. There's this little blip down here, which is Gingin town itself. But you can see that our centre is actually, and the AGO laboratory is actually lit up quite a lot. And this is when everyone has gone home. This was taken at 1 o'clock in the morning. Everyone had gone home. And what's producing that god-awful amount of light is some of our fridges that we have in the main cafe area. And I saw this and I thought, we can improve a lot. Before we start telling people in the area, turn your lights off and start thinking about making dark skies, we need to do something about our backyard. We need to set an example. And the best way to set an example is to do it. So we went from this to this with two simple fixes. Those simple fixes, well, one of the fridges, we turned the light off to the ice cream fridge. The other fridge, the drinks fridge, we made a cover for it to cover it up because there was no off switch for the light. So we covered it up, and those two simple fixes reduced our lighting output to, well, a hell of a lot more than what it was. Oh, sorry, a hell of a lot less, I should say. Now, we've further improved all of this by actually removing and turning off a number of TV screens in the actual centre, and also had our emergency exit lights modified to have a black background instead of a white background. So we've taken steps now ourselves to actually improve the light output around the area, thinking locally, acting globally. Now, the benefits of keeping the Gingin Shire dark. for the community? Well, darker environment equals better sleep and better health. That's a great enough reason for me, if you ask. The darker the environment is better for livestock, for sheep, cows, goats, etc. They too have to have sleep. They too have to have their body clocks, and stressing the poor animals out doesn't do them any good, I can tell you that. So allowing them to have their nighttime and daytime is a lot better for their health, and I'm sure the product would be better if that's what they're being used for. But also, if you're worried about people running off with your sheep or your goats or cows or whatever, well, they're going to be a lot harder to find in the dark. If you light them up where they're sitting, well, that's a bit of a dead giveaway. You might as well put up a flashing sign saying free sheep here, because you give people light to work and they will use it. In fact, it'll actually make it more difficult to see people doing untoward things on your property if it's lit up all the time. If they start having to wave around torches looking for these said animals, then they're going to attract attention, unwanted attention to themselves. So think about it that way. The darker the environment, protection of and health for local wildlife, bird, insect, amphibian, and coastal marine life, including the local flora, including the local plants. And Dark Sky Reserve official designation to attract more local, interstate, and international visitors, and space astronomical research collaborations, meaning more people are going to come into town, and they're going to bring a lot more tourist dollars too. Now, from coast to cosmos, aim to boost numbers and, of course, those tourist dollars for local tourism and accommodation providers. Now, here up at the Shire of Gingin, it's pretty darned amazing, because you're an hour's drive north of Perth. It can be an incredible getaway, and it's certainly a lot closer than Margaret River. Now, for the astronomy capital of WA, science tourism, most notably in the field of astronomy, is a booming division in WA tourism, and the GDC Observatory is the best place to explore the universe. We have a professional observatory here, both public and research. We fulfill a very important observational niche across the globe. You see, where you have the Eastern States observatories, as the Earth turns, the next major observatory beyond us is, of course, in South Africa. So, of course, the Gravity Precinct fulfills a very important observational point along the globe as it rotates around. So this is a very, very important area to have an observatory along this line of longitude. It's only an hour's drive north of Perth CBD, so ease of travel to dark skies. You don't have to go all the way out to wherever to see dark skies. It is on your doorstep. And you can come to an observatory to look at them. Or if you choose not to, we're actually thinking about creating a little astronomy park just down the road. And you can go there with your binoculars and have a bit of a look around. Maybe if you've got a telescope, you can actually go out there as well. Now, currently the GDC and Observatory attracts around 30,000 visitors to the region each year, and we're hoping that that is going to increase with our Dark Sky Reserve accreditation. Now, it also encourages visitors to explore the surrounding towns within the Gingin Dark Sky region, because it'll give them a reason to stay. And even closer to local accommodation and local tourist attractions. So if they want to come up and look at nighttime, they have to have a place to stay. And of course, the best place to do it is in local accommodation. So, and that'll attract them to stay for a little bit longer. And it's a great reason to visit and to stay a little while. Normally people are travelling further up north and they just tend to zip through the Shire of Gingin. But this will be a great way to actually capture some of those tourist dollars that are flowing up north and encourage them to explore what a wonderful place the Shire of Gingin is. Now, there's one thing that we've started now. We've done 2 of them. It is the annual Gingin Dark Sky Star Party. And we did our second one earlier this year in March. And we did last year in May. But it's going to be a March thing from now on, because we found that the weather is much, much better. Oh, here we are. Someone said, but if you camp there, take milk with you. We forgot for the last... Yeah, bring your own stuff. That's important. But if you haven't, you can just go to town to one of the local shops and buy milk from there. Gingin has a shop. It has a couple of shops. So there's, there you go. So if you forget something, you don't have to drive all the way back to Perth. You just go to Gingin. So The annual Gingin Dark Sky Star Party is designed to showcase the wonderful skies we have here, only an hour's drive north of Perth. So it's held at the Near Gabby campgrounds, yes, where they have the annual fireworks shindig, which is great. In fact, that's coming up this Sunday. And I'm actually going to be there with a solar telescope and another telescope to look at the moon. Oh, it was closed. Oh, okay. That's too bad. So this Sunday I will be up at the Near Gabby campgrounds with a solar telescope to look at the sun and another telescope to look at the moon. So drop in and say hi. I can give you one of our pamphlets, which I'll show you in just a minute. And if you've got any questions about the Dark Sky Reserve, just come up and ask. But anyway, so the Gingin Dark Sky Star Party is held at the Near Gabby campgrounds, and participants of the Star Party are encouraged to bring their own telescopes or binoculars or even just their eyes to enjoy the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve. Now, participants of the Star Party are also encouraged to stay the weekend. Make it a mini getaway. Like I said, it's closer and darker than Margaret River, and also cheaper too. You've been down to Margaret River lately? That really hurts your wallet. And I'm just not talking about the fuel cost either. Now, it's designed to attract visitors, both local and interstate, to visit the Shire of Gingin, Gingin's Dark Sky Reserve. We want to make this event like one of the many star parties that go on around the world. One of the ones that comes to mind is in Japan, the Tainai Star Party, which attracts something like 30,000 visitors to that particular region over 3 days. And that's pretty darn impressive. So what we attract in a year, they attract in 3 days. Now, if we can make this actually big enough, we could see something like that happening, which would be absolutely fantastic because, like I said, hours drive north of Perth, Shire of Gingin has got so much to offer, from coast to cosmos. It's got it all. Capture northbound road travellers to drop in and stay at the local accommodation, stay at the local caravan park. You know, grey nomads heading up north to look around at flowers and whatever. Come in and stay, look at some telescopes, you know, look at the night sky, and you know, talk to people from the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory who will be up there hosting the night. And encourage Star Party attendees to explore and spend tourist dollars within the Shire of Gingin, because pretty much that's what it's all about. Now, activities at the Near Gabby camp. There we go. Activities at the Near Gabby campground. What happened there? That was weird. Conducted over 2 nights, Friday and Saturday nights. Camping is optional, so you can camp on site. There is a small fee, but generally it's not that hard. But if you prefer to live in the lap of luxury, there are a number of caravan parks, most notably Willowbrook down the street, but also other B&Bs and other holiday homes that you can rent out for the weekend. So activities include observing through large telescopes supplied by the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory. There's a few in the picture there. You can bring your own telescope, binoculars, and I do recommend bringing your eyes. Stories and star lore told by an elder. And there we have a picture of our dear friend and learned colleague, Dr. Noel Nannup, telling stories to the eager crowds listening. And that is an amazing part of the night. So I highly recommend even just coming for that. Daytime events at the GDC precincts. So we put on a bit of a show here as well. And we have guest speakers talking about their research or other fun things. We also have the researchers at the Zadko Observatory showing the telescope and also talking about the research that they do and answering any questions. But we also have the GDC Observatory open for solar viewing, where we have our solar telescopes pointing at the sun and you can safely observe the closest star to our planet. So again, why keep it dark? Protection of local Aboriginal culture. So the Ued and Wajak Nyunga astronomical star lore and sky stories are very, very important. And like I said, their stories are intertwined amongst the dark dust lanes of the Milky Way galaxy and also the stars themselves. And we're drawing upon 60,000 years or over 60,000 years of astronomical knowledge, culture, history, and the local environment and the sky. But the research programs and international collaborations, like I said, it's home to the UWA's Zadko 1 metre research class telescope, the biggest telescope in WA. That's not including the one up in Exmouth, that is a secret, and I didn't say that, so you didn't hear it from me. There's also the Falcon telescope from the US Air Force Academy, along with JAXA, Pulsar, Airbus, Ariane, etc. And of course, we fulfill a very important observational niche where we're located. Astronomy education. Well, we have a great centre here. We've got a great observatory. It's the perfect place to bring, budding young minds, young scientists to explore the cosmos and actually have people who know what they're talking about. And how do I become an astronomer? How do I become an astrophysicist? And we're the perfect people to ask. And of course, the environment and wildlife, protecting the local wildlife from the scourges of light pollution and protecting our incredible ecosystem we have in the area. And also provide a dark sky sanctuary for people to stay overnight to reset their circadian rhythm from the, within the region, and also give opportunities for eco-tours, eco-tourists and eco-accommodation to kick off within the Shire too. Now, the area we want to protect includes the entire Shire of Gingin, but then down to the south, down here we've got parts of the city of Wanneroo, but also a small portion of the Shire of Chittering. So the entire area we're protecting covers over 3,526 square kilometres. So all the way up past Lancelin, all these coastal towns, Ledge Point, Seabird, Gilderton, and across Gingin, and just up past, just before Regan's Ford down here, I took one of the measurements of how dark it was, and boy, oh boy, was it dark. Really, really dark. I'll explain that in just a minute. But this is the area we want to protect. So this is a fair chunk of area, and that red star, that little marker there, is where we're located in the core area. So that is the core area, and this is a buffer area all the way around. But still, the further away from, the further north you go, the less light pollution there is, and that's how we want to keep it. Now, we monitor the skies with this little contraption on the top of our observatory. It's called a sky quality meter, and that has been monitoring the sky now for the last 3 years and has taken a reading every 10 minutes. And it is up to us to troll through all the data to make sure that we get rid of things like the moon, if there's a planet passing over like Jupiter, which is too bright for its own good, but also even the centre of the Milky Way does constitute a form of light pollution, believe it or not. So after filtering out all that, we do get a very good reading of how dark our skies are. But we want to expand that and have remote sensing stations at these locations, just to start off with, and put a couple more out towards the east and one into the centre, just so we can monitor the night skies and see if they're getting better or if they're getting worse. We do hope they will get better. And some of the hot spots that we see, of course, there's the Boonenaring Sand Mine. Down here is Yanchep. Down there is the RAAF Gingin. And then, of course, we have Gilderton, Seabird, Ledge Point, and, of course, Lancelin, all up through here. So these are small pockets. Some of them are actually transient, like this one here. Actually, sorry, forgive me. That one there is the chicken shed up near Gingin Brook Road. We're going to be paying a visit to you guys. That light in your car park is too bright for its own good. But there's also this one here. That was a transient light. But some of them come and go. This one here, I went, oh, that's Gingin town itself. But we found one just to the east of us. And of course, I went and had a look last night, and there was nothing there. So the lights might have been on momentarily, but then they were turned off pretty darn quickly, which is good. So that's what we want to protect. That is going to be the Gingin Dark Sky Reserve. Now, I'm proud to say that the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory was pivotal in the creation of this position statement put out by the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, the state government of Western Australia. And it was through a chance meeting of one of my local members down where I live that I asked him, is there a way that the state government can support us and do something about light pollution? And he put me on to the Minister for Planning, Lands and Heritage, and they got their people to talk to us, and we got the ball rolling, and we worked in with some of the fine people at the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage to create this position statement of dark skies and astrotourism. Now, this basically has all the best bits of the International Dark Sky Association and the best practices of how to keep your sky dark. So direct your light down, use only very low color-corrected temperature lights, put lights on sensors, all that kind of sensible, logical stuff to keep the skies dark. And this group of people here was the WA Planning Committee. I had to do many presentations in front of them, very, very nervous presentations, I must add, but they were the ones who gave the final nod to have this thing published. And published it was on January the 22nd. And I'm very, very proud to say that the Gravity Discovery Centre was pivotal in the creation of this document. So this now not just protects what we do here, but it goes all across the state of Western Australia. And yes, I know it could have been done later on or in the future, but we needed to have it done now before things got any worse. And that we did. So, you know, not blowing my own trumpet, but somebody has to. So there you go. Now, who's protecting the night skies? Well, I like to call them the Guardians of the Dark, or Guardians of the Night. And of course, it is the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, the Gravity Discovery Centre and Observatory, the Shire of Gingin. I want to do a special shout out to Aaron Cook, your CEO, and also to Kylie Bacon, these two, and also to the councillors as well. They listen to, again, my nervous presentations many times, talking about the benefits of dark skies and how to create Western Australia's first international dark sky reserve, and they were very patient and very accepting, and they were very excited, some of them, which was fantastic and encouraging. But making everything happen and getting the ball rolling, a big hat tip to Aaron and to Kylie, because without them this thing wouldn't have gotten legs and it wouldn't have happened. But also the city of Wanneroo, your neighbours to the south, they were very, very accepting. In fact, they'd like to join in as well by creating the gateway to the stars, because people do sometimes drive through the city of Wanneroo, so it'll benefit them indirectly. But also the Main Roads Department and Western Power, and also just recently the Shire of Chittering. Now, our discussions with the Shire of Chittering were very, very favourable. They sent us a letter of support because we are using a portion of their land, but in the not too distant future, when we get accreditation, we might look expanding the International Dark Sky Reserve to encompass the Shire of Chittering as well. And if that's the case, that could take us to quite a few thousand square kilometres, which would actually make us the biggest dark sky reserve in the world. Now, that's still a long way off. Let's get this one happening first, but there's another goal that we could sort of work to. Now, the Guardians of the Dark is missing one critical component. And that critical component, which I'm hoping would love to join up, are the residents and the businesses of the Gingin community, you guys. Because without your help, without your support, well, you know, it's going to be quite difficult. But to have you guys on board, to be mindful of what you do with your outdoor lights, to take pride in your dark skies, would go a long, long way to helping us achieve our goals and our dreams of keeping the skies dark and have the ability to preserve the local ecosystem, preserve our astronomical endeavours that we do, both scientific research and educational, preserve the sky stories from an ancient culture. It all works in so well, and also attracting some tourist dollars as well. Now, we made our original submission about 2 years ago now to the International Dark Sky Association. We're just currently working through a couple of little issues, so we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and hopefully by the end of the year, if not early next year, we'll make our final submission to the International Dark Sky Association. They will deliberate on that, but currently our status is pending, so we are pending being a dark sky reserve, which is a good sign, it's a step in the right direction. Anyway, if we are successful, that would be absolutely brilliant. Because if we are successful, we will become the first internationally recognised dark sky reserve in WA. And that's a big step. But we'll also become the 5th dark sky place in Australia. Now, believe me when I say that if we are successful, well, the future for the Gravity Discovery Centre, Observatory, and also the Shire of Gingin looks very, very dark. But that's a good thing in this case. But I want visitors and people who live here to say that the stars are not brighter in Gingin, the sky is darker in Gingin, because that's what we want to do. I mean, you're very, very lucky. I'm envious of everyone who lives here that you can go out into your own backyard and see the Milky Way. Just step out and there it is, blazing above your head. I can't do that in Perth, unfortunately. I drive from my office here at the observatory, and I drive back down to Perth, and when I get back down to where I live and I look up, I can only see a few bright stars because of all the light pollution around the area. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely terrible. They used to turn the street lights off at 1:30 in the morning, but now they don't anymore, which is a real shame. But anyway, there you are. So it's lucky that we have the observatory here. It's lucky we still have dark skies here in the Shire of Gingin, so let's protect them, and we need your help. So, without further ado, here we go. I'll just move the mouse over to the appropriate screen. There we go. So, folks, that brings us to the close of our Gingin virtual. Pamphlet here. Well, we'll move it this way. There we are. So it shows you all the different types of lights, the spectra, and on the back is more information, the size of the Dark Sky Reserve. Actually, there we are. The Guardians of the Dark, but also our contact information. So if you have any questions and you want to know a little bit more about it, oh, you know, how much is this going to cost, or what can I do? I've got this light, or I'm thinking about putting up a light, but I don't want it shining all night. Well, you can come and have a chat. Give us a call, send us an email, even come down and have a cuppa. That's what we do. So it will be lovely to, you know, have the backing of the.